Hello and welcome to the Ecology TV. Today is our third day at the School of Ecology, and today I have the pleasure to welcome Christian Adams. Hello, Christian.
Hello, good evening, Rochelle.
Good
Thank you
evening.
very much for having me here.
So, Christian, you are a fisher from Cape Town, and you are a member of Coastal Links South Africa, which is a member of the umbrella organization of Small Scale Fisheries Collective.
Yes, that's correct, Rochelle. And yes, I do reside close to Cape Town, but I'm not actually from the city itself, but more to the north of Cape Town. I come from a little village. I was born there called Mamre, but now due to policy and due to fisheries laws, I had to move to a village called St. Helena Bay, and I at the moment still reside there, and I do my fishing from the village of St. Helena Bay.
Christian, we were discussing it before the interview. You call yourself a fisher and not a fisherman. Why this?
In the case of fishing and in the case of the ocean, I've met many fishers across the world where it's a very, very male-dominated industry, but yet we have much more women employed within the industry. And I don't want to refer to myself as a fisher because that takes a fisherman, because it takes the right of a woman away to participate within the act of fishing and in the employment of fishing. So for me, as a fighter for rights and a fighter for the oppressed, I must also fight for the rights of women and for the women to be able to choose whatever occupation they want to do. If they want to work as a fisher, then women should be allowed to be working as a fisher, and not just by mere the name of fishery or fisherman be excluded as a woman from the fishing.
I want also to talk about the slogan Amanla, our way to, which you changed to Amanla, power to the fisher.
Yeah, yes. During the years of the liberation, I was also growing up under years of apartheid, and to a certain extent I felt the effects of apartheid as well. And the slogans that was sung and the slogans that was screamed during that time was to be Amandla, Awetu, empower to the people. It means, if you translate it to English from the language of isiXhosa. And after democracy, the very first year after the fisheries law was introduced under democracy, I was arrested for fishing, and I couldn't believe what was happening, and I didn't understand it during that time because I was still fairly young. And then later on, as I got more involved in the fishing industry and got more involved in the rights, I started realizing that actually now we can no longer say power to the people or power to, because what power to the people meant for us was not being liberated at all, but actually being further oppressed as small-scale fishers because of the laws that was made under the slogan of power to the people. So therefore, in my mind, I thought that no way can I be able to still support the slogan of power to the people when power to the people meant oppression for the fishers. And that's when I started in around about 2012, to say to the guys, hey guys, we must actually change this. And to the women that were present at the conferences, let's change this to power to the fishers, so that those who are in power that came from the people can understand that actually now we as fishers want to have our own power, make our own decisions pertaining to our livelihoods. And still today we are fighting for this exact right to be able to sit at the table to make a decision that goes towards the fishers. And we are fighting a lot with the Department of Fisheries and even with our government as well, because as I've explained earlier, that even today our government brought out very restrictive 20 new marine protected areas, and it's a craziness to think of where these marine protected areas are located. All of them next to small-scale fishing communities, and what that will mean for the small-scale fishers residing in those communities without being arrested, and without being criminalized, without being victimized.
What we talked earlier, and which gives another sense of marine protected areas,
Yeah,
which I personally thought was good because we are protecting this sensitive marine area,
yeah,
but it's completely different for the fisher.
yeah. The village that I reside in now, there's a protected area that's around it. They are around the entire village that's there. So the fishers from the village is not allowed to fish for lobster, which is the main income of small-scale fishing communities with along the west coast and along the northern Cape coastline of the country. So along the entire west coast, from the border of Namibia right down around to the area of the south coast, which is in Anderston. And fishers are reliant heavily on the income that is derived from this much sought after delicacy that is called the West Coast rock lobster. And the community is not allowed to harvest lobster within that particular area. Although you can walk into the ocean and you will see lobster there, the community is not allowed to harvest it. But what is allowed is purse trawling within that area. And with a purse trawler, you take much more than just what you are targeting. And a purse trawler is the capacity of nearly one full football field or one rugby field, depending on your knowledge of the sport that you know. But it's a huge, huge area that is there, 500 square meters nearly of net that is in the water. Now if you can imagine the destruction that one net like that causes, and then at any given time there are 20 to 30 boats with nets like that within the lobster sanctuary. So for us it's not a marine protected area, but rather a restriction to be able to fish with there and to allow industrial fishing to continue to fish, because they are fishing for a different species, but they are also destructing. And also there's a lot of destruction that is happening in relation to the habitat of the lobster, the habitat of other fish that are there, because those big nets can't make a distinction, and it's not selective enough to be able to protect the environment in which they work, even if they work in deeper waters as well. It's we have seals, we have whales, we have turtles, we have all kinds of fish that they are not targeting, getting caught up in those nets.
I would like you to unpack the word small scale fisher. You have extended this definition, which really touched me this morning.
Yeah. For me, and what I've done all the time was that if it's a much deeper connection to the ocean, because it's like when we go to fish, we only derive our income from fishing. But what I like to also express to the guys and tell to the guys that are with me on the boat, unfortunately I didn't have a woman yet to be able to work with, so that's why I'm speaking about guys, and it's not just for any other reason why I'm saying guys, is because I never had the opportunity to work with a woman. But what I ask the guys is that when we come to fishing and we don't catch a fish and we go home in the afternoon, and we don't have anything to put on the table yet, maybe there is something to eat, we can go and harvest maybe some mussels just to have something to eat in the evening. But still the happiness that you must feel because you were able to be on the ocean, because you were able to touch the water, because you were able to make the effort to catch a fish, we must still have that happiness. Although the ocean didn't bless us today in the manner in which the ocean bless us in other days, we must still feel that happiness, and that is the connection that we must have with the ocean. So not just look at the ocean to be a money-making machine for money that I need to take out for the protection and care of my family, money that I need to... No, if we look at the ocean in a different way. And some of the friends that I have as fishers, have told me many things that have touched me as well. They said that many of the privileged elite that are out there, their fathers leave them with big bank accounts that are able to sustain their lives and that are able to sustain the lives of their families and that. And one of the guys told me that what his father left him was the bank in the ocean, because we have places in the ocean that you call a bank where you will find some fish or certain types of fish, and we go there to go and fish. So that is what his father has left him, with the knowledge of being able to protect that bank, the knowledge of being able to look after that bank, because what they express is that that bank is not just only for us, but we want to leave it to the next generation coming after us and to the next generation coming after us. So the connection to the ocean, it's much deeper than just making money, and it's like I say, especially when I don't catch any fish, and then I tell the guys, is just take a little bit of water, sniff, smell the ocean, taste how it cleans your nasal system, taste how it cleans your system from inside, and be happy with that, because we've spent the day outside of the reality that we are left with every day in terms of the poverty in the community that we are here. We have been in touch with the nature, we have been in touch with the ocean, and that is for me very important. And it's not just only for us as small-scale fishers in the Western Cape, but also in other areas of the country as well, where fishers have also the very deep connection with the ocean, where they have the salt water to do cleansing rituals, and it's part of the culture to live next to the ocean. And it's not just about the fishing that is happening within the ocean. Today I have two 4-year-old sons, 5-year and a 4-year-old son, and both of them are already swimming like crazy. And for me, it's that knowledge to impart, to be able to enjoy also the ocean. And I fear that one of these days the waters may be in such a manner that we won't be able to enjoy the ocean in the manner that we are enjoying it now. And we won't be able to access the ocean in a manner that we are accessing the ocean now.
And when you say that it's not only the fish, but it's also part the process.
Yeah.
The fisher want to be involved in the dialogues, be involved in every decision making concerning the ocean, concerning fishing, and also be part of the process.
Yeah, because ultimately for us as small-scale fishers and small-scale fishing communities, our families, and especially the women in our families in the Western Cape, have always been subjected to work in a fishing factory, work for a fishing company, and never have we been able to take ownership of the resources along the coast that belongs to us, because the processing facilities have never ever belonged to us. And it's always belonged to the privileged elite. In the past, under apartheid, in the case of South Africa, it belonged to the white people, and the white people were responsible for exporting fish, for processing fish, for making it available on the market in South Africa. And in many cases, the amount of corruption that is involved in that process is to the detriment of the small-scale fisher that have been harvesting these fish. And now under democracy, we have an opportunity to be able to relieve the poverty that are in the majority of small-scale fishing communities to such a manner that it can actually improve the lives of not just our generation, but the generation that comes after us, and even be more of an improvement to the generation that comes after them. Because if we do take control of the processing part of fish, it means that we can generate a bigger income. It means that we will, nowadays in South Africa, if you do not have the money, you are not able to send your children to a proper school. And the schooling from the state schools have deteriorated in such a manner that it looks like it is deliberate from the capitalist system to keep our children at such a low education level that it is not possible for them to rise out of the poverty, to go to university, to be able to become a marine biologist, to assist his father in understanding the changes in the marine much better. For now, I don't have the choice to be able to send my kid to a proper school, let alone if I have the choice to send my kid to a university. And that is just in terms of education. If we talk about the food and the nutrition that we eat, for me as a conscious man that knows what types of food I want to eat, and not the GMO chicken from America or the GMO maize that you receive from South Africa, it's very difficult to make the choice to eat healthy food that is grown organically, that is grown without fertilizer, that is grown without chemicals. It's too expensive for me, so I'm forced to eat the bad food that is being propped down the throats of us as South Africans. So those decisions should belong to us, and the decision that we want to make in terms of the process of fishing should also belong to us, because ultimately it's the lives and the livelihoods of the small-scale fishing communities that are at stake when they have these or make these decisions.
Also been talking about green capitalism since day one of the School of Ecology, and what's happening in South Africa and with the fisher community is a direct example about what's happening with green capitalism and those big NGOs like the WWF.
Yeah. In the case of South Africa now, we've been advocating with the Department of Fisheries for few years now to stop the trap fishing, because it is the trap fishing is a type of commercial fishing for West Coast rock lobster that is very destructive towards the habitat of the West Coast rock lobster in particular, because the trap is a very big metal mechanism that they put down into the water. They drop it from a very a big height, because it's a big boat that they must travel on in order to have the traps on the boat. And then when the trap hits the bottom or hits some reef or hits something, it destructs the habitat of the West Coast rock lobster. And through data that we received from the department, and you can see when the West Coast rock lobster trap system was introduced, how much the stocks have declined to such a manner now that the stocks and the percentage of the stock that we have is less than 2% of what it was before the West Coast rock lobster trap system was introduced. And now we sit with this problem created by the West Coast rock lobster trap fisheries, and the WWF wants to enforce the department, which they've now succeeded through the court of law to tell the department that the total allowable catch for the West Coast rock lobster must be reduced. So when the total allowable catch for the West Coast rock lobster will be reduced, it will mean a reduction of anything between 50 to 60% in the allowable catch for a small-scale fisher. And for a small-scale fisher, with the meager allocation that we have, our allocation is at that now. If they deduct it with 50%, it will be at that. So that will be nothing to be able to put onto the table. And this is the most important income that we have to be able to sustain our lives and livelihoods. So what we are telling the WWF is, yes, we agree with the point that what you are making is that the department is not managing the West Coast rock lobster in the right manner, but we don't agree with you to say that the industrial fishing must continue, because you are blinded by the sponsorships you receive from the industrial fishing industry to not make it able for you to distinguish between the most destructive fishing and the most selective fishing. So what we are propagating is to say that you must stop and start supporting us in order to stop the industrial fishing and make the entire allocation towards the small-scale fishing, because it's the best manner in order to be able to resurrect the lobster stocks that are there, and it's the best manner also to be able to protect the environment in which the lobster is residing.
Also, the green capitalists, they put the blame of the degradation of the ocean on the small-scale fisher, which is not the case.
Yeah. In many cases, what we have is we've had many discussions with scientists that are pro-industrialized, and many discussions with scientists that are pro small-scale fishers. And then we look at what is being since the first time in 1980, when the first time when a Thomson table was described to look at the differences between large-scale fishing and small-scale fishing. And we've seen that the effect that large-scale fishing has had on the ocean, and we've seen the effect that small-scale fishing has had on the ocean. And it's what we want to portray, just in one fact that we have, is the fish that gets discarded at sea, and the fish that get turned into fish meal and to fish oils. In the industrial fishing, it amounts to 19 tons around about in 2006. In small-scale fishing, no fish get turned into fish meal, no fish get discarded at sea, because whatever fish we catch, if it doesn't go to the market that we supply, we eat it ourselves. And it's of such a minimal, our bycatch is so minimal that we rarely have any bycatch for the species that we target. If we go out to target a certain species, that's what we will catch. And when we are out on the ocean, because of this cultural belief and because of this deep belief that the ocean means much more to us than just something of which we make money of, we do not, in the majority of cases, yes, there are cases when small-scale fishers put some plastic into the ocean, but in the majority of cases now, small-scale fishers keep the plastic and rather put the plastic in the bins, because of the work that we as an organization have done over the past couple of years in sensitizing fishers to say that actually we must look after the ocean. In many cases, they have done it in any case. Yeah. And this is not just because of the information that we are spreading, but also because of this deep cultural heritage that we've had with the ocean.
The struggle is also in court, where you have a case since quite a long time now.
2007, we took the Department of Fisheries to court, and with the assistance from the Legal Resource Center, we were able to win the court case of the then Minister of Forestry, of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. And since 2007, when the court case was finished, and the court ordered the minister to make to write a new small-scale fisheries policy, and to make provision for the small-scale fishers to be able to have an income whilst the writing of the policy is in continuation. We've had that 2007 until 2018, a 11-year period. It's actually a 13-year period now. We are in the 13th year of an interim allocation, just to be able to sustain ourselves, and not the true allocation that we are needed, as the court instructed the minister to do, to change the socio-economic needs of the small-scale fishers. And that is the one case that we are still embroiled in, because the policy has not been fully implemented yet, and we are waiting for the small-scale fisheries policy to be implemented. And there are many, many other cases of human rights violations, or violations of cultural rights, that we have taken the department to court, and we have never lost a court case against the Department of Fisheries. So there are other court cases as well, which I didn't mention this morning within my presentation. And just to speak about the legal issues where we've been involved in, it's been crazy to think of all the cases that we've won against the department.
And you have also been arrested several times for fishing.
Yeah. The only cases of arrest that I do have on my record is because of fishing. And at one moment in time, I was able to explain this to the fishery control officers that came with a high-speed rubber duck and big guns to come and look at confiscate our fish. And after listening to what I've told them, they gave our fish back. They didn't give us a fine. They didn't. The next day, they just told some of the fishers, okay, go, and you go home. The third day, they didn't even bother to come around to the fishers because we were at sea again. And I told them the first day when they apprehended us, they said, you will continue to see us at the ocean because it's the only thing that we are doing. And just as the same department allows you to do your job. It denies me to do my job because of permitting conditions, because of rules and regulations that they don't want to adhere to, but which the court instructed them to adhere to. And I've been arrested 5 or 6 times for these infringements, but only for fishing and for nothing else. So, who is wrong on the is what I want to ask. Are the department criminalizing me as a small-scale fisher and not just me? Because in other cases, what they've done was they've actually went on to kill the fishers. In the case of the Eastern Cape, we've had 2 or 3 fishers that were killed. In the case of the KZN, there's definitely 3 fishers that I know of that have been killed. And there are more cases around in the Western Coast, in the West Coast. Just recently, a boat have been shot at where 9 fishers capsized, and one of them was killed, but the other 8 were able to survive, but with very severe injuries on their bodies.
Christian, to conclude, this struggle of fisher, it's not only for fisher, but for a real system change.
What we are faced with today, this is what it's about. If we continue to operate within the same system that we are operating in, it's going to be to the detriment of the entire humankind, because the advantages that goes to the highest 10% of the highest 9% of income earners, because it's not that many people. The majority of people live in abject poverty around the world, and because of what this 10% is doing to the ocean, to the land, to the forest, to the skies, to the air, we as the poorest will suffer ultimately. And if we do not continue with our fight, I do not want to speculate on how the fight will be looking in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. We might not be able to, as Gandhi did, passively resist all the time, to passively resist. So you can come with your guns and shoot at us, and we will just resist. It might take on a different type of face for the revolution to continue. But I would like to say that the climate revolution is starting to pick up pace, and people are starting to realize that if we do not enforce our leaders to make a immediate change in the manner in which they are thinking, it's going to mean much bigger radical death to all of us than what we are suited with today.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Thank you very much, Rochelle, for the time, and thank you very much for the Ecology TV to be able to explain our story also. Yeah. Thanks a lot.